I think just to try something, just give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue doing it. I think we kind of figure if we give something a try, we're 100% committed instead of just give something a chance.
We are heroes and dreamers. We are restless believers, stronger than
Welcome to Empowering Vibez, the show that supports you to create an extraordinary life. My name is Hannah Wiz, and my guest today is the impressive fitness queen, Christina Higgins.
Christina had struggled with mental and physical health issues due to being told that she will eventually inherit her mother's Crohn's disease, having a traumatic car accident, and living in a high anxiety environment. One day, Christina decided to take ownership of her health by educating herself about the food that she puts into her body, the benefits of exercise, and the correlation between mind, body, and spirit on our overall health. Today, Christina is an expert in the field of fitness, wellness, and health, sharing her wisdom on her blog and in her podcast called Mente de Madre Leona. In this beautiful interview, Christina teaches you how to set your health goals, how you will stay motivated to achieve them, and shares tips about how you can overcome mental challenges like depression or anxiety. Stay tuned if you're ready to improve your health today.
I am so excited to have such an unbelievably powerful, inspiring woman today on the show. Christina, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Empowering Vibez.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and just to get to talk to you and learn more about you and share a little bit about me.
Thank you. So I know that you're a very strong advocate of health and fitness, and I always love to get to know the story that brought a person to where they are today. So would you mind sharing a little bit about your health and fitness journey?
Yeah, definitely. Mine has definitely been a lifelong journey. I think that for most of us that, we can, when we reflect, we can see how it has truly been a journey and how maybe we'll never have it all figured out, but along the path, we have definitely had different things that maybe we learned, but we didn't use right then. Or we learned that things that we believed were not the case. For me, my mother has been ill my entire life. I'm 39 years old, and my mother was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, which is a very painful illness, when I was 4 years old. And I was always told that's a hereditary disease and that I would likely have it. And that was just kind of pounded into my head. So I believed it, right? And I really believed that antibiotics were the way and always just running to the doctor. And I had no understanding about the correlation between mind, body, soul, health. I didn't understand that nexus. And so I went through a lot of pain, definitely. And, I just grew up in a really stressful, high anxiety situation. My mom was a single mom, super ill. Then on top of everything, she got injured very, very severely. But she's a really strong woman. She went to Ivy League University, and I was right there with her, even went to some of her seminars right there as a very small child. And I got to live on campus with all these brilliant people from around the world right there in New York. And so it was really influential to me that there are so many different ideas in this life. Like, we don't all have it figured out. There are just all these different beautiful ideas and beautiful cultures. And it was just such an amazing way to grow up, in addition to the not so great things that were happening in my life. But as I got older, I did get pretty ill. I had a lot of really bad stomach problems, and a lot of it was right here, that stress, that anxiety, and believing that this is the way it's going to be. The more antibiotics I took, the sicker I got. And I did have a really terrible injury that busted out all of my teeth and fractured my jaw. And because of that, I had surgery after surgery and lots of antibiotics, just, wreaking havoc on my system. And I'll probably have, unfortunately, surgeries for the rest of my life because of that. But at least I know now a little bit better of how to care for myself. And then when I was in law school, I was run over by a car. So a whole nother injury, and again, more medication, and just a whole lot of bad things being put into my body. So a number of years ago, I started to realize that there is something that I can do. I can take ownership of my own health. And I had listened to a cousin of mine. She was talking about how gluten and grains were really damaging the gut biome for her son that had a lot of problems, and how when she removed those from his diet, he suddenly didn't have all of these really terrible problems. And so it got me to thinking, well, if that can help him, maybe it can help me and my children. So I first, went gluten-free, then organic and non-GMO, and then vegan, vegetarian. And then I was always somebody who, I was a ballerina and I was always on track and very active, but I never could understand how constant daily exercise and movement and activity with the eating right and having good spirituality, good mental health, how that all could work together to make me a total health. So I was really able to learn and learn and learn. And once I started just trying out new stuff and figuring out what worked for me, it really fast tracked everything. And that's what's rolled all of this up into getting really deep into fitness, specifically weight training. And so today, I don't have any of these problems that I used to have. I mean, they're gone, completely gone. So it's been a good journey, a lot of learning.
That is so impressive. Wow. Especially like all these antibiotics you took, those have a huge impact on your microbiome as well, which then we already know nowadays that the microbiome is very, very linked as well with our brain. So that must have also such a big impact on your mental health.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah. And of course, and the distilled water, getting the fluoride out of the water. Definitely. Yeah. It's just fascinating. The more, you just start to open your mind up to just learning, you just don't know what you're going to find out.
Yeah. What I find so beautiful though about your story is that you took ownership. Like sometimes we think like doctors, they know so much, they went through all these medical things, and sometimes we like to go to a doctor and kind of like, they should help us, and we kind of put ourselves almost down in a victim role. Yes. And I love about your story that, of course, with the advice of doctors and professionals and experts and so on, but you took ownership of your own life and your own health. And that is absolutely beautiful and really empowering. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you very much.
For somebody who would also like to live a healthier and more active life, how do we set and plan out health goals for us?
Sorry again about the thunder.
Don't worry at all. There's a huge storm going on. I know you told me.
So I think that really the first thing that you need to do is, if you're really wanting to get on track, is you've really got to figure out, you've got to define what it is that your end goal is. That doesn't mean that can't change and evolve. I think that we a lot of times get scared, like, oh, I've set this goal and it's like set in concrete and I can't ever change it, and it almost puts us into failure mode right away. But if we can just say, I'm going to go for this because it feels right. So whether that's changing body composition, whether it's not being on so many medications, maybe it's just having more energy, whatever it is, or maybe you just don't really love the way your food is making you feel, or, there's so many different things. But when you can kind of start to define what that end goal is, then you can start to make a plan of, how am I going to get there? But again, we can't get so caught up on like, how we get there. Maybe we just try Pilates. Let's just try it, let's try yoga, try until you figure out what makes you feel good. What is that thing? Because if it's not making you feel good, it doesn't matter. Like, if you're dragging yourself into the gym and you hate every minute of it, it's hurting you up here. It's not helping you in your heart. It's got to make you feel good. Like today, when I go to the gym, man, I'm pumped. I can't wait to go every single time. I love it because it makes me feel so good. So you've really got to work on that plan and just starting. And that's the biggest part, is just making that first step and knowing that this is going to be a process that you're going to work towards And know that along the way, as you gain knowledge and wisdom on your path, your goals are going to also evolve with you. And that's so exciting. And so when you can see that you are this amazing creature that has all of these abilities and strengths to not just say, well, I'm just going to stop eating, sugary foods or soda, or, stop at fast food, that you're capable of so much more than that. It's so much more, but you don't have to do it all today. You don't have to figure it all out today. Just take one step at a time that makes you feel good, because when it makes you feel good, you're going to continue down that path.
Yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. Especially sometimes we have this tendency, when we read like this and no gluten, no sugar, no this, and then we're like, okay, tomorrow I'll change it all. And then it doesn't really last. But these like small incremental changes that we do like every day, they compound, and over time they have such a huge impact. So thanks so much for sharing this. Talking about that, often we have this like super motivation to start, and then like often it's this on Monday I'll start, and then like Monday goes well, Tuesday goes well, then Wednesday comes around and we're like starting to slack motivation. Do you have any tips on how we can like long-term stay motivated?
I think that when you've got that really clear focus, and again, that focus can change, when you've got that idea in your mind, that picture in your mind of what it is that you're going for. So like for me, I have a couple of those things, and these evolve and change, but my number one goal was always to be able to run and play with my grandchildren. I didn't know that I would become a grandmother at a very young age because I married a much older man. But that came true for me. I have energy at 39 years old that I never had at 29, and I never had at 19 years old. And so I am able to chase around my 2-year-old and my stepdaughter's 2-year-old, no problem at all. And so that goal has been fulfilled, but of course I want to sustain it because there will be more grandchildren, and I'm so excited for that. Another goal is to just be healthy. And so right now, yes, I've met that goal, but I want to continue to sustain that goal. So when you get that picture in your mind and that visualization, you're really able to move towards it. And I think that, we're so able to grasp onto that, whether we write it down or if it's, a picture you have on your phone or wherever, and you meditate on that's something, when times are hard. And maybe it's easier to turn to something else when we can remind ourselves of that goal. We can stay motivated to moving towards that goal. Another thing that I think is really important is when you track your progress of moving towards your goal, and that gives you so much motivation because we see ourselves, we feel ourselves, and it's easy to take for granted all of those little changes because it's easy for us to say, oh, that wasn't really a big deal, or that wasn't a whole lot, or we can't see the physical changes as much. But when you are, writing them down or taking measurements or photos, but especially writing them down, I feel like it really reaffirms that you are making progress, and that progress alone is such a huge motivator, at least for me. So I hope that helps other people too.
Absolutely. Especially, I think it's Tony Robbins who always says like progress is the key to happiness. And I love also how you're pointing out that it's like sometimes if you look at like within a week, it's like, okay, I only got this and this little bit stronger, or this and this little bit like, okay, well, it's been just a week without sugar and so on. But then if you keep over time, then you have this kind of like written progress of like, wow, a year from now, I was there and now I'm here. And that is actually like such a big progress. And I also find very, very important that we regularly remind ourselves of that, and even have like a written document that shows us that, because we often so have this narrative of like, it's not enough, others do more, blah, blah, blah. And to have this in a written form is just kind of like showing us black and white, like this is what we accomplished and this is amazing.
It really, really is.
To me, health is not only like we talked a lot about the physical aspect so far, about having energy and like maybe changing your body composition, getting stronger. But a huge, huge part for me is also the mental aspect of health and mental well-being. And I know you've already struggled sometimes with, as you already mentioned, with anxiety and even depression. What helped you overcome these hard mental issues? And for somebody listening who's having right now a hard time, like what advice do you have for that person?
I think that one thing that so often we overlook when we're not feeling the best is we turn to things that comfort us. And some of those things are really beneficial and some of them are really unbeneficial. And if we can really focus on, turning to comfort food is not going to help us. It's so easy to think, oh, well, this is just, so much sugar, whatever. I'll be over it tomorrow, but we don't see how it actually plays in, like we were saying, into our gut, into our mind, and then also to our self-esteem. If we've already been trying to eat better and then we put this into our body and we're not feeling good, then we feel even worse. So I think that if we can, in those times, really focus on putting even better food into our bodies and really focusing on that can bring us up a little bit more because we're taking care of ourselves. And that doesn't mean you can't have a little bit of comfort food, but really focusing on not overindulging in those times. Because believe me, I know I've been there. I've done it many times. I think that you also need to have a balance between resting and taking time for yourself to heal emotionally and spiritually. But at the same time, don't seclude yourself, be able to be with friends and family, the people that make you feel good. You don't want to go and be around people who are going to bring you down or make you feel bad, or listen to music that makes you feel sad, or watch movies that make you feel down. You've got to surround yourselves intentionally with the things that are going to make you feel better. And always, I think if you can get some good sunlight and get outside, that is really, really beneficial, because I think oftentimes, I know for me, when I've been in a bad place with anxiety and stress and depression, the last thing I want to do is go outside. I don't even want to see the sun. Like, I'm in a very negative place. But as soon as I do, it lifts so much of that. It does help because of the vitamins and because of just the light, penetrating our body. We need it, as much as we are so, into our computers and, so many of the things with technology that we do inside today. So I think that that's really awesome. And of course, exercise, whatever that means for you, stretching, just going for a peaceful walk, running, whatever that is, that also can bring up your spirits so much. So really, the totality of self-care in those times, real self-care, not just turning to a pint of ice cream and a romance drama on the TV that brings you down. So those are definitely the things that I have found to be really, really helpful.
I 100% agree. I already messaged you that for me, it was like when I found yoga, that was to me this world that opened up, where it's feeling myself and lifting myself up. And whenever the outside world is chaotic or stressful or whatever, on my yoga mat, it's just kind of me and movement, and it's just blending everything out. And I find once you find whatever it is for you it's strength training, for me it's yoga, for somebody else it might be a walk in the nature. But once you find these things that just bring you joy, this little bit of push on days where we feel depleted or kind of anxious, depressed, and so on, really can lift our mood so high, and can make such a big impact. So thanks so much for sharing this.
Yes, absolutely.
You're also a podcaster, and you also have a blog, and your podcast and blog is called Mente de Madre Leona, and it's called after your great grandmother.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. She's called Leona, and I know you never met her in person, but still she made a huge impact on you. would you want to share like why she inspired you and how she impacted you?
Yeah, definitely. So from a very young age, she lived far away. She lived in Florida. I lived in New York, so a very far distance. She would always send me beautiful gifts. And one of the gifts that she sent me that has stayed with me, I'm looking at it right now across the room, is a beautiful journal that she sent me with a little unicorn on the front, and from Sanrio. So that tells you how old it is. But it was so inspiring to me because I still have it written in it from, being a very small little girl. And that really encouraged me to write. And I love writing. And it's been a huge part of my life. And so to be able to open up and to share my writing and my words with the world has been so incredible. Now, my great-grandmother, I knew her as Grandma Ems. I didn't know her as Leona. So as an older adult, I learned that her name was Leona. And it just like flashing came on when I learned that. I was like, oh my gosh, Leona. And my daughters are Latina. And so being able to know, I want to instill in them this lioness that I know that my great grandmother was, because I know the trials that she went through in her life and the things that she had to do as a mother for her daughter. She was a single mom during a time when that was just not okay. And she really struggled until she was able to find the love of her life. And it was just such a beautiful story. So I definitely saw that she had that lioness inside of her, that strength inside of her. And so, of course, her name was Leona. And I just absolutely loved that. And everything just kind of came together that was supposed to be the name of the blog. And of course, it's thoughts of Mother Leona, Mother Lioness. And so I not only want to inspire other women, but I also want to inspire my own daughters as well in their journey as women.
That's beautiful. I told you my niece is also called Leona, which I absolutely love this name, really.
It's the best.
So I find it so important that women, no matter if it's family or just like people who meet each other, that women especially support each other and empower each other. And I find this so beautiful that your great grandma did this for you, and that you're now doing it not only to your daughters, but actually with your blog and podcast to like thousands of women. And I find this so incredible because we used to kind of like often women kind of like held each other down and were against it. And I feel like there's now a shift where we lift each other up. And this is just such a more beautiful energy. And I feel like this is so needed. And I feel like people understand that just because you shine your light, that doesn't mean I can't. It's actually the other way around. Mm-hmm. We both shine a light. We can lift each other even higher.
Yes.
And I love that you're doing this with your podcast. And I was also curious if on your whole health, podcast, fitness journey, also as a mother, like what were kind of like the biggest lessons that you learned?
I think the absolute top is to listen to myself, listening to my own intuition, because throughout my life, I have made a tremendous amount of mistakes. And luckily, I've learned from every single one of them. But upon reflection of all of those, they were generally because I took the words and advice of someone else. And I followed through on those instead of listening, because I can remember each of those times feeling like this isn't the right thing, but X, Y, and Z said it is, so I'm going to do it. Or somebody else wants me to do this, so I'm going to. And so when you can learn to trust your intuition and to tune out the chaos and the desires of other people, it's just groundbreaking. I mean, truly, when you can move forward on your own path, and and it's beneficial to the ones that you love, because when you're doing those things, so much good is coming out of you and surrounding you. And a lot of the negativity just begins to dissipate because you're not focused on any of that stuff that's out there. You're focused on the beauty that was created inside of you. So definitely you've got to learn to listen to that intuition, and I will constantly for the rest of my life be learning how to listen to that. But absolutely, intuition and or your inner voice, whatever you want to call it, that is essential.
Absolutely. I actually wanted to just right now ask that when you said like you gotta keep learning. Like, do you have any tips on how we can listen to our intuition, or how do you do it? When do you have these situations where you feel like your intuition is right now like coming through?
So I've been able to really think, I read all the time and I listen to other people and really try to listen to how do they listen to their intuition? Where do they, was it meditating? Yoga is phenomenal. I do love yoga and I do it all the time as well. I think for me, I keep hearing people talk about being able to get into this particular state of energy, and I couldn't really understand what that was. And then I started really thinking about, as a child, I would always be told, wow, Christy, that was my nickname, you have this way with animals and they come to you. And what is that? And I started really thinking, what is that? What was that feeling? I mean, I literally out in the wild as a child in New York, I had a little deer walk up to me. And I remember there was this energy, and it was something that I can feel it and I can put myself back into that energy. It was this calmness, but energy and almost like a buzzing. And when you can put yourself back into that state, and everything else goes away and you can really focus on the inner. But definitely deep breathing. There's so many different ways. I mean, it doesn't have to be quite on that level, but I think it's really interesting that I think we all do have those abilities. We just have to start quieting, put the phone down, put the computer down, turn the TV off, get quiet. And as a mom, that can be super hard to do, especially because I've got 3 kids in the other room, but finding those moments and even being able to do that when there's kids running around or you're in the middle of a work session and you just can close your eyes for 30 seconds and get into that place and really listen to yourself. It's really powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's Marie Furlier who always kind of says, like, when she's trying to figure out what is like just my mind wanting something and what's my body wanting something, she just closes her eyes and asks herself, does it expand or contract me? And that, I think, a body also shows us a lot of this wisdom that we have, which is our intuition. So
Absolutely.
Thanks so much. Yeah. It's so powerful. It's like actually so amazing how smart and wise our whole human system is. And if we kind of leverage it and use it, what we can create in our life, that is just brilliant to me.
It really is. It's so fascinating because I feel like in the world that we live in today, we're constantly told, like, look at this new AI technology, look at this, like it's constantly outside of ourselves and further away from the natural. But I do see, so much coming back to the people wanting to do their own work with their own hands and taking things back from, technology. And my last child, I had an all natural birth at home, and I see more and more women returning to that and returning to themselves. And it's just so incredible. So I love that this is gaining momentum is what I feel.
Yes. I also love that it's even in the business world. And I think even Steve Jobs and people like this, if you read their biographies, even they build their huge businesses based on intuition and their gut feeling. And that shows us, okay, if people build like $1 billion business on it, like how important it actually is to guide us through life. And it's just such a treasure to find this connection to this inner wisdom.
Absolutely.
Would you say, or differently, what was the biggest advice you've ever received, or like the best advice, or the more advice that brought you like to the next big level in your life?
I think just to try something, just give it a try. If you don't like it, you don't have to continue doing it. I think we kind of figure if we give something a try, we're 100% committed instead of just give something a chance. And because I gave weightlifting a chance, I have completely found something new that I absolutely love in my life. And it was the same with my blog and podcast. I had put that off for 10 years, but I finally gave it a chance. And I'm so glad that I did. And I think we all have those things that we look back on in life and we think, what if I'd just given it a chance? Just a few seconds of my time. What bad could have come out of it, And we're so often willing to give something a chance that isn't beneficial to us. So that's definitely been such a huge piece of advice that's been given to me. So I would definitely hope that some of your listeners would just give something a chance. And you never know how your life is going to unfold. It's so incredibly exciting.
Yeah. Do you think it's because we're kind of like so afraid of the unfamiliar that we're not really trying? Or do you think it's just because if we try it, we notice that we don't like it and then we give it up, that we then feel like a failure? Or why are we actually so scared about just trying something?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both. And I think we get so comfortable with where we're at, good and bad. And so often we're comfortable with the bad because it's what we know, instead of let's just give this a chance. We might actually be happy. And sometimes when we're so used to just doing the same thing and getting stuck in a routine and kind of complaining and having negative energy, we get in that cycle, and it's so hard to break out of that. And it can be truly scary to think like, I don't know what it's like to step into positivity. I don't know what it's like if I actually am into something, we start playing the worst case scenario, I'm going to have to change all these other things in my life. I don't have time. I don't have any. And we just, make up all these excuses, and it's definitely fear, So I think for each person, it's probably a little bit different. And if we can sit down and make that list, if I give it a chance, what's the worst that can happen? And then try it out.
Yeah. There's actually Tim Ferriss always does this fear setting, and where he kind of like writes, okay, like what's the worst that could happen? And let's say that really happens. What would I do then? And like, let's say you want to start a business, like, okay, let's say the business, it doesn't really work. What happens then? Well, I just find another job and so on. And just going like thinking the fearful thought to an end has so much power, because then we actually notice, well, it's not that bad what could happen. Right. And then if you, on the other side, put to like what could happen, like the positive impact of that step. And I think that's always a very, very big help to like give us a little bit this push to try something new out and to dare ourselves to do that.
Yes, definitely.
I know this myself. I think it's been like 2 years that I was so afraid to do this podcast. And now that I do it, I love it so much. So I totally feel like you. And I feel if somebody listening right now, at whatever this one thing is that you would like to try, just go and do it. It's really, really worth it.
Absolutely. For sure.
So Christina, if there's a question I like to ask all my guests, and I'm always so curious about the answer. Let's say you get the magic ability to turn back the hands of time, and you're allowed to share 3 wisdoms with your 18-year-old self. What would you say?
I would say first, slow down. Slow down. Life is going to be there. For most of us, slow down and enjoy, and don't rush through things. I was one to I started college when I was in high school and always trying to take so many extra courses. And in the end, it took me far longer to ever graduate than anything. But I was always rushing to get married. And that was a whole nother problem, always rushing. So definitely I would say slow down, enjoy. I would say number 2, experience life on your own terms. Don't be trying to live your life for your parents, for a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or, if you have children that young, whatever it is, experience life on your own terms. Go travel, take time to learn new things. That's what that time in your life is so incredible for, is to experience life before you have, a major career, a relationship and children and major responsibilities or business, whatever the case may be. Just slow down and experience. So, the two are really interconnected. And definitely the last one would be to try to learn about health and to continue to be healthy, because at 18 years old, we can all have a lot more energy and higher metabolism and kind of think that this stuff isn't ever going to catch up with us. But that's such an awesome time in our life to set our routines and things. We can learn so much faster during that time, and we can really start to put into place the things that we could possibly do for the rest of our lives and grow from those. So definitely not doing the going off to college and eating tons of pizza and, developing those bad habits. Instill the good habits.
That's beautiful. Thanks for sharing. Thank you. I would like to take a second before you tell us where we can find you to acknowledge you, because I find it so powerful, that you're a 39-year-old mother of 3 children, that fit and vital and beautiful. When I got to know your age, it was like, wow. And you are such an inspiration. And I love that you really took ownership of your own life and health. And doing so, I feel like you're really empowering others to do the same. So I would really like to acknowledge you for that. And thank you so much, really, for doing that and sharing that with us. So last but not least, where can people find you to connect with you and to get to know more about you?
So you can definitely connect with me on Instagram at Mente de Madre Leona. And I'm also have my website, which is just www.mentedemadreleona.com. And my podcast is on iTunes, Spotify, iHeart, Amazon. And I am on TikTok. I believe it's Leona Fit, I think. I don't use that one as much, but I'm definitely on there. So Hannah, thank you so much for just inviting me. I really appreciate all of your time, and you're just such a beautiful woman, and I love what you're doing. This is just, I'm so glad that we connected. It's just awesome.
Me too, really. I'm so grateful. Yeah, I'm so grateful for your help. I'm so grateful for your time here. I'm so grateful that you shared your journey with my audience. And it's just a real blessing that we connected. So thank you so much for your time here. And I'm sure it was not the last time that we connected. If there's anything I can do for you, please always reach out. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you.
Now I would like to know from you, what was the one thing that you learned today and how can you put it into action starting now? Leave a comment below or hop over to Instagram at Empowering Vibez. Leave a comment under today's episode. I hope this served you. Thank you so much for watching, and never forget to shine your light.